Umamusume Pretty Derby was the game that proved me wrong again about gacha games. If you told me that I would have really fun training anime horse girls to win races, then I'd be damned if you didn't tell me sooner. Umamusume Pretty Derby is exactly like that. This is a gacha game where there are tons of horse girls that you can train with. What does Umamusume even mean? Uma means horse in Japanese and Musume means daughter in Japanese. So basically, Umamusume means horse daughter. Yes, they're your daughters, your anime horse girl daughter. Except for some of the Umamusumes, I think their freaks are pretty hard to match. Anyways, I've been playing this for 2 months now. I started playing it pretty close to its global release and I've been having a lot of fun with it. Of course, a lot more fun than the other gacha game that's been released at the same time as well. This game is surprisingly addicting to how simple it is. You click some buttons, some numbers go up, you race and hope that your Umamusume wins. Easy, right?
Hell no! Hell no! Hell no!
This game has pretty good depth for how simple it looks. Sure, you just click some buttons and numbers go up, but those numbers mean something, man.
The numbers, basically. What do they mean? Where are they broadcast?
I don't know anything about any numbers!
In light of that, I became addicted to the numbers. I looked up tutorials and guides on how to win races. One thing led to another and now I'm here. I wasted a lot of time trying to get the most stats out of my Umamusume. This game was the #1 drainer for my phone. This game really showed me the good side of gacha games. Despite the obvious predatory aspect of the game, it excels in just being a simulator manager game. I feel like this is how you create a good and beloved gacha game. I know that from the outside it looks very simple, and to be honest, it is simple. No matter how you look at it, the game is just a simulator manager game. You have to train your Umamusume for 3 years. The 3 years that you spend with them is basically their careers. In 3 years, there are about 70 or so turns, and in those turns, you can choose to train one of the 5 stats: speed, stamina, power, guts, and wit. Not only that, you can also rest your Umamusume for 1 turn to get her energy back up, do recreation activities with your Umamusume to up her mood, or whenever your Umamusume gets sick with the night owl disease, you can just go to the infirmary for 1 turn. It's either 1 turn or 3 turns to cure the disease. So that's basically the premise of the game. I want to say it's similar to Football Manager because you progress through the calendar and you have to make decisions that will affect your team. But Football Manager is a lot more complicated than that. It's a lot more numbers than Umamusume. Anyways, the 5 stats that I mentioned before, they do a lot of things. Now this is where it gets a lot more complicated than it looks. You see, Umamusumes have different aptitudes for different race lengths, race track ground type, and strategy type. Haru Urara, the golden girl that shines brightly in our lives, is a late surger or an end closer who only does dirt tracks in sprint and mile distances. If you try to run her in a race that's on a turf ground and long distance, she might end up being 16th place and cry in front of you. I would never forgive you, Cygames. So those are the things that you have to take into account. Some Umas excel in long distance and in a front runner. Some Umas excel in mile distance using a pace chaser strategy. If you try and train a lot of the Umamusumes, you'll know that it will feel really different each time, despite some having the same aptitudes with one another because of their race objectives and just the general feel of their careers. Not only that, you have to know which stat is the most important for their aptitude. You see, you could just train each stat to be equal, but you'll end up losing the career most of the time if you use that strategy. I was training my Umamusumes like that when I first started, obviously because I do not know how to train effectively, but eventually when you look up guides and tutorials on how to train for real, you'll get better as you go. So in every Umamusume, speed is probably the most important one. Speed is how fast your Uma can run, very simple. For stamina, it's how long your Umas can stay at their top speed. Power is how fast your Umas can reach your top speed. Guts is not really important. It's basically how good your Uma can sustain their speed during the last bits of the race. Most of the time, if you have around 300 guts at the end of the career, your Umamusume would be more than fine. Wit is how smart your Umamusume is, so it determines how many skills it can activate, lowers the chance for some bad statuses you can get in races, and also determines the positioning while racing. Different aptitudes really require different high stats, but most of the time, the most important is usually speed, stamina, and wit. In long or medium distance races, those are very important. Well, at least from my experience. For the front runner and pace chaser strategy, speed and stamina is most important, but for late surgers or end closers, you need high speed and power. You really need to min-max on how you'll train your Umamusumes because sometimes some Umas will have mile and sprint races in the start, which the most important stat is speed. Then later into their career, suddenly they have to run long or medium distance races, which you need to change up your training to include a lot of stamina in it. So this game actually offers quite a bit of depth and challenge to its mechanics, although in most cases the most important ones are usually speed and stamina. When you play their careers, there are different objectives that you need to complete. Throughout the 3 years that you train your Umamusumes, there are certain fan thresholds that you need to pass in order to be able to proceed to the next objective. Of course, the objectives are usually the big races that your Umamusumes need to win, place in the top 3 or top 5 or just run in. It all really depends on the Umamusume that you train. They all have different objectives. Now, the races in the game have different grades. The first race that you do with all Umamusumes are maiden races or junior make debut races. Basically, your debut race. It doesn't really have an objective, just run in it. But it's usually preferable that you win your debut race so you don't lose a turn later. There are quite a few times where I lost the maiden race, especially when using Super Creek or Mayano Top Gun, but that was because I was just a bad trainer at the start of the game. Of course, I didn't have the best support cards and all that. That was really embarrassing. Anyways, the next level of race is called the pre-OP race, then to the OP races. I do not know what OP stands for, honestly, but this is the grade above the junior make debut or maiden race. These races are still relatively easy since it's just a grade above the very first race you do. These races mostly give 1,000 to 2,000 fans, so it's not much. I just searched it up. OP means open, so open and pre-open races. Next grade is G3, so when it starts using G in the grade, it means that the race is graded. Again, don't know what graded even means. It's an actual term that exists in horse racing. Interjecting again, apparently the graded races in the Umamusume universe is similar to the game where the Umamusumes have to race like their debut, pre-OP and OP races to have a chance to enter the graded races. Now, I don't know exactly what are the requirements for an Umamusume to enter a graded race. In the game, you just have to build up your fan base, but in the game, the fan base is a tangible thing that you can actually see the number go up. I don't know if you could count a fan base in any circumstances other than in a game. So in the Umamusume universe, outside the game, all I know is that you need to be at the Tracen Academy, you keep racing and winning, and eventually you're eligible for the graded races. I watched the Cinderella Gray anime, which we will talk about later, and I don't think they mentioned how Oguri Cap could enter the graded races. I know that she missed out on a big G1 race because of a late sign up, and the URA can really bend the rules to include Oguri Cap in the race, but for the other instances, I don't really actually know how she is eligible for it. The trainer just said, hey, Oguri Cap, you're entering this race. It's a graded race, which is good for you to enter the Twinkle series or something. Anyways, enough of the tangent. The G3 race is the next level above the OP and pre-OP races. This usually has around 3,000 to 5,000 fans when you win them, so it's a good way to reach the 5,000, 10,000 fans threshold easily. Of course, the next grades would be G2 and G1. G2 and G1 races offer around 5,000 to 30,000 fans. Now, the holy grail of the G1 race would be the Arimakinen. The Arimakinen is a long distance race, 2,500 meters, and it's usually the final objective for most Umamusumes. Some Umamusumes have the Arimakinen race in the middle of their objectives, like Super Creek for example, but it's usually the great goal that the Umamusumes usually strive towards. Of course, after you finish all the objectives, you finally get to race in the URA finale race. This is, I believe, the fictional race that was created by the game. I think all the actual races like the Arimakinen, Kikokasho, Sprinter Stakes are all real races. These races are mostly in Japan. I think there are some that are outside of Japan, but these are real horse racing competitions. Now we move on to the multiplayer. The PvP in this game is really not that complicated as well. So the usual PvP that you do is the team trials. Team trials have different leagues depending on how good your Uma team is. So whenever you finish a career with your Uma, the final screen usually shows the career rating of your Uma. The higher your career rating is, the better it is for your PvP team's rating. Higher Uma team rating usually indicates a good Uma team, but That usually depends on if the Uma has really good skills or not. The PvP is not real time, so usually you go to the team trials race. There will be 3 options of teams that you can choose to race. One being above your Uma team rating, one being largely similar, and one being below the rating. In the team trials race, you'll have to race every type of race, meaning your team has to race in sprint, mile, medium, long, and dirt races. You only get to have 3 Umas in your team on each race, and you have to accumulate as many points as possible from the races. You get points by winning the race, having your 3 Umas place in the top 3, and having your Umas activate as many skills as possible. So it's basically out of your hands in the PvP. There's also going to be real-time PvP events like the Taurus Cup that's happening right now, which is different from the team trials. I don't really know how it works because I just don't have the sufficient Umas to go against other players. I'm still stuck at the 10k mark. I can't reach 11k. Every week you have to reach a sufficient amount of points to be able to promote or stay in your league. If your team isn't good enough and doesn't have enough points, then you will get demoted. Getting promoted, staying in the league, or demoting have their own rewards at the end of the week, but just try to at least stay in the league. Speaking of rewards, the rewards in this game usually sucks because the gacha in this game sucks. The pull rates are atrocious, the hard pity is at 200 pulls, which is insane, but that's just how Japanese gachas are. I don't really mind too much about the gacha, even though I would like to pull all of the Uma Musumes available. But that means I would have to waste money on a gacha game, and I'm not doing that. I wanted to. The temptation is there, especially when Machikane Tannhäuser and Tamamo Cross is going to be released in global, but I can't. Not now, especially when I earn like ass from YouTube. This is the only gacha game I would consider wasting my money on. This and maybe Wuthering Waves. Maybe, just maybe. Through all the pulls that I did on this game so far, I would say that my luck is kinda ass, to be honest. Not completely ass, but kind of ass. Especially this month alone, I've been trying to get a lot of my support cards to be max limit break, but the 10 support card pulls, I've only been managing to get a single SR in the 10 pulls alone, so that sucks. But the one time I used the single free daily pull on the Uma Musumes, I got the fire costume Tokai Teo. Like, what the hell is going on? Now moving on to the next thing I want to talk about, which is about the connections to real life and the various fun facts that we know about Uma Musume. I think everybody knows at this point, the Uma Musumes are based on horses in real life. Cygames was able to get licensing rights to a lot of the horses so they can use their real names and real histories as well in the game. The Uma Musumes in the games are also similar to their real life counterparts, like Goldship being moody, which led to her being hard to train, Haru Urara never winning a single race in her life, but we all still love her, Hishi Akebono being the biggest Uma Musume in the game and also the heaviest racehorse ever to win a G1 competition at a whopping 560 kgs. That's around 1,200 pounds. Also, the game included some fun facts like Daiwa Scarlet's owner demanded her boobs in Uma Musume to be bigger than vodkas. There are just a lot of similarities and fun facts that were present in the game. It really showed how respectful Cygames are to the real racehorses and the Uma Musumes that they created. Some of the racehorses that have sadly passed away, they're still alive and well in the Uma Musume universe. Some Uma Musumes maybe had bad endings to their careers, but none of them had met a bad ending. None of them turned into glue or were euthanized in the Uma Musume universe. Not only that, Cygames also brought in a lot of eyes towards racehorsing. I knew racehorsing was a thing, but I thought this was just a gambling den. I mean, it is, but the stories that a lot of the fans of the game shared about the real life racehorses, it kind of made me a lot more interested in racehorsing. Who knows, might mess around and own a horse, right? Like the very heartwarming story of Haru Urara, she is a horse who had never won a race at all. It was about more than 100 races, she had never won any of them. You might think that Haru Urara sucks or something, but let me take you out back of the store. I just want to tell you. Haru Urara's story is very heartwarming because horses just don't know what is winning or losing. Horses only know how to run, running to their absolute best, and in every race that Haru Urara has been in, she ran her heart out. Every time. She's just having fun and happy that she gets to run. Because of her story, she became a beloved racehorsing icon in Japan. And now with the global release, she became a beloved racehorsing icon all over the world. Haru Urara in the game is the most adorable character that we have ever seen. Someone who just radiates bright, jolly energy, someone who always smiles and works hard. Who doesn't love a character like that? You know, as much as I love my very well written, tragic and edgy characters in fiction, I think I would love to see more characters like Haru Urara, someone who you look at and just feel hopeful and happy. As I get older, I realize that I really prefer characters like Haru Urara. I do still love dark, edgy and tragic characters like Batman, Gintoki from Gintama, most of the Fate characters. They're just really well written and beloved characters, but now I want more hopeful characters. I want more good, kind and happy characters. Characters like Superman, Spider-Man and Haru Urara. Anyways, enough of the tangent, but that's like the basic explanation of the Umamusume Pretty Derby game. I also need to explain that in the Umamusume careers, you can explore their in-depth stories. This is different to the stories that you can just click through in the main menu. What I mean is the story that you go through when you train an Umamusume. Each of them are unique, and when you sit through 30 minutes to an hour of taking in the Umamusume story, believe me, you'll end up having all Umamusumes as your favorite. That's what happened to me, even though my absolute favorite is Super Freak. Seeing every Umamusume story in the career, man, I really like them all. There's not one that I dislike at all. Even to some Umas that are not really popular like Meijiro Ryan or Machikane Fukuki Kitaru, once you sit through their career, you're going to be charmed by them. Seriously, just sit through any of the Umamusume's career, you're going to like them. Not only that, I would also like to tell you that support cards are literally everything. If you have a lot of support cards that are maxed out for limit breaks and good pulls, it will make your Umamusume a lot more OP. You can go for 1,000+ stats on speed, stamina and power in one career if you have good support cards. Support cards help with boosting extra stats when training them, giving you energy through their support card scenarios, help you gain hit levels for skills so it will be cheaper. It's basically the most important part during training an Umamusume in the career mode. So as much as you want to pull Narita Brian, if you care a lot about big numbers, then you should pull for support cards first. So what do I think about the game? I think it's a great game. If you haven't noticed it yet, I am speaking highly of the game. I really like that it's just a simple pick up and play once you're used to it. We can also just spend so many hours on it if you have enough toughness 30 on you. The designs of the Umamusumes are all really good. There's not one that I found weird or did not like. The game and characters are just specifically crafted for you to just get invested in it. Like compared to other gacha games that I've played, especially the Persona one, they really try too much. They try too much and end up putting it behind the artificial time gate and the gacha system, which makes it miserable. A game like Wuthering Waves for me is not something that's supposed to be a part of my daily life. It's too big and heavy of a game to actually log in every day, do dailies and grind. Wuthering Waves for me is better when I can binge it, finishing the content in mostly one sitting. This is because of how the game is. An action RPG game is not a game I could just log in one day then the next. I have to sit down for a period of time to be really invested in it, which is the opposite of Umamusume. Umamusume is literally just a pick up and play game for me. The gameplay loop is just the career mode, which is really all I need. It's perfect for a gacha system, I feel. I'm not saying WUWA is bad, but WUWA would be better as a non-gacha game. All games actually will. Now, all the characters are very charming in Umamusume in their own way. Their stories and their personalities are made for you to get attached to them. Obviously, like I said before, my absolute favorite is Super Creek because Goo Goo Gaga, bitch. Mayana Top Gun, one of the only Umas to out-freak the Super Freak. She pissed me off a couple of times during her career because she's mainly a frontrunner in medium and long distance races, which isn't easy to train. But the most annoying so far that I've trained is Biwa Hayahide. For some reason, when I pressed the rest button on her, she just refused to sleep properly. She's just a sleep-deprived woman, and it pissed me off, but her character was great, so it's okay. Gold Chip for me was surprisingly easy to train. Like, there weren't many times where my training was restricted. I only got it once, and I completed her career in my first try without any hiccups. Maybe that's where all my luck went with the gacha. It just went into Gold Chip. Damn you, Gold Chip. I like that she's an end closer. She just clutches the race every time near the end, like how Cristiano Ronaldo always clutched against Atletico Madrid, the owner of Atletico Madrid. I also noticed that Machikane Fukuki Kitaru and Winning Ticket don't get talked about a lot. I really like them. I like that they're loud. Machikane Fukuki Kitaru always screaming and Winning Ticket always crying. I find them to be very adorable. Daiwa Scarlet is one of the Umamusumes that I found her design to be really good. No, not because of her two huge assets, but the twin tails really suit her name for some reason. Like her twin tails really fit her personality, of course, but with her name as well. The next Umamusumes I want to see in global are of course Tamamo Cross, Machikane Tannhäuser, Mambo, but I also want to see Biko Pegasus, Aishin Flash, Hishi Akebono, and Satono Diamond. I think those Umamusumes are the ones that I really want to pull for now if they ever release in the global version. And yeah, so I think this game is great. The characters really make everything about the game fun and entertaining. Cygames did really well in making them. Without the Umamusumes, it won't be Umamusume Pretty Derby. It will be Pretty Derby, just Pretty Derby. Is Gray spelled with an A or an E? Umamusume Cinderella Gray is an anime that follows the story of Oguri Cap. This anime is adapted from a manga. If you didn't know, there are a bunch of official Umamusume mangas that follow other Umamusumes, but in Cinderella Gray, it follows Oguri Cap. I would say that this anime was really well done. Obviously, the animations for the anime are really good. The studio, Cygames Pictures, is basically just a subsidiary studio of Cygames, meaning that they have their own studio for in-house production. You know, owning a gacha game can take you so high in life that you can basically have your own anime studio. For the other top 3 biggest earners in the gacha space, maybe take some notes. This studio is also responsible for the Princess Connect Redive anime, the Idol Master Cinderella Girls anime, 2 Umamusume Pretty Derby movies that followed the story of Narita Top Road, another Umamusume Pretty Derby movie called Umamusume Pretty Derby Beginning of a New Era, which I think follows the story of Agnes Tachyon and Jungle Pocket, and a new production which is airing right about now called Hikaru Shinda Natsu, or The Summer Hikaru Died. If you've seen any of these anime, especially the Umamusume ones, you'll know that they're not messing around with their animations. Blue Lock Season 2 wished that they had Cygames Pictures working on them. Anyways, the anime follows the story of Oguri Cap, following her humble beginnings from Kasamatsu, basically following the real story of the actual real-life Oguri Cap. In this story, Oguri is just a country girl who joins the Kasamatsu training center to start her racing journey. The anime follows her closely on how she developed as a runner over time, even being admitted to the Traisen Academy by the Emperor herself, and also some good drama for character development, story, and all that. Now, I'm not going to talk about the animation because we all know that this anime has really good production. There's no doubt about that. Even just anime horse girls running, they managed to make it intense and full of action. Like the same feeling you get from watching Saber vs. Rider in the Fate Stay Night Heaven's Feel movie, except that there's a lot more tension behind it. So basically, the animation is fantastic. No need to go deep in that. What I want to talk about is how well the story is. Human emotions are basically interwoven into the story that leads to certain outcomes as a result of it, which for me, I think is a good indicator on how good a story is. In other words, the characters were forced to decide the important outcomes in the story through their emotions. I think that's where you get to see a character really develop and how they will carry the story onwards. In this anime, the story is actually tense. Like, despite how funny and cute Oguri can be, the story really takes some serious turns that really make you invested and feel the tension. Like for example, the race where Oguri Cap has to decide whether she wants to stay with her current trainer or to move on to the Traisen Academy in the big leagues. Oguri Cap and her trainer Kitahara Joe already developed a good bond with each other since their first time meeting. I thought that maybe Oguri Cap wouldn't really like him that much, but their bond was really well developed because Kitahara Joe was a good trainer to her. Then because Oguri was blowing every competition in Kasamatsu out of the water, she got the attention of Symboli Rudolph, the Emperor, and the President of the Traisen Academy. Symboli Rudolph then came forward to Kitahara and said that she wants Oguri Cap to be in the Traisen Academy. This is where the tension starts. Kitahara didn't have the right license to be able to train Oguri in the Traisen Academy. His license wasn't enough for training Umamusumes in the higher grades, so of course, if Oguri were to accept Simboli Rudolph's offer to come to the Tracing Academy, she would have to leave Kitahara and basically everyone in Kasamatsu. Kitahara didn't want Oguri Cap to leave too, but he knows that Oguri's talents would be wasted if she were to stay at Kasamatsu. He didn't want her to leave because obviously he grew attached to Oguri Cap. I was growing attached to the trainer Uma relationship too, and it was kinda sad to see it gone. So Kitahara decided for Oguri to enter a race where if she wins, she goes to the Tracing Academy in Tokyo, or if she loses, she stays with Kitahara in Kasamatsu. Oguri, hearing this very important and heavy decision being placed upon her next race, really bothered her. It made her sad. It was a decision that basically was out of her control, and in her mind, win or lose the race, it wasn't a good outcome for her. It wasn't an easy decision for Oguri because she still wants Kitahara as her trainer, but also, I almost forgot, she promised Fujimasa March to race her at the biggest race in Kasamatsu. That promise was like a declaration that it's like a guaranteed to happen. The most looking forward happen of all time in the anime. She was torn between not wanting to lose purposely because she just doesn't want to lose a race and not wanting to win the race because she doesn't want to break her promise with Fujimasa March and leave Kitahara and Kasamatsu. You might think that losing a race really doesn't matter that much since Oguri wanted to stay at Kasamatsu anyways, but the build up towards that decision, her purposely losing the race, also looked really bad and not a good outcome. It was a lot of pressure for Oguri and the trainer, and it was the perfect way to develop their characters. Eventually at the race, the trainer shouted at Oguri while she was racing that she should just run, like run as fast as she could. Oguri was about to lose purposely because for the first time she didn't want to run. She hated that she ran and she seemed to lose either way. So when Kitahara shouted at Oguri that she should just run, Oguri made the decision that she was going to run at her full speed, beating Fujimasa March and winning the race. That whole arc thingy or whatever was really well done. Tension, emotions, and character development were perfect. Couldn't ask for more. But not only that part had real tension. Basically, nearly all the races in the anime had so much tension behind it. Like you really feel the stakes behind it and how important it is. You also don't really know who would win at the end, even though the story is about Oguri Cap and she's basically really busted in racing. But if we take a look at the final race of the anime against Tamamo Cross, it was absolute cinema. One time you'd think Tamamo Cross would win because she was OP and tapped into the speed force. Then during the race when Oguri Cap took the lead, you'd think that Oguri Cap would win because she's an absolute speed hungry demon, and Tamamo Cross looked like she was out of the race due to the anime telling us she had a cramp from pushing herself to the absolute limit. But then Tamamo Cross subverts your expectations and managed to clutch the first place at the last few 100 meters at the end. That race was so good. I've never felt that kind of tension before in an anime. Umamusume Cinderella Gray managed to do that. That's how good the anime is and how well they build up these stories and characters. So if you haven't watched Umamusume Cinderella Gray, please do. It's an absolute masterpiece, basically the best anime I've watched this year. Well, I didn't watch much anime anyways this year, but it's a good anime no doubt. I love the characters. Oguri Cap was great, trainer Kitahara as well, and Belno was also good. Though I wish we get to see more of Fujimasa March, especially since she was the only one who beat Oguri in Kasamatsu and her development was kinda chopped a bit. Like she was cold and only cared about winning in a race, then she lost to Oguri at her last race, then she became all friendly and outgoing with the other Umas that were fans of hers. We need to see more of her because I think she was an interesting character and her design was really cool. I'll also be watching the other Umamusume animes. I think they all look really interesting and good. So in the end, Umamusume Pretty Derby isn't just another gacha game. It's one that really surprised me. What I thought would be just a goofy horse girl simulator turned into a mix of strategy, storytelling, and charm that kept me coming back every day. The depth of the training, the way Cygames respected the real-life racehorses, and even the anime adaptations like Cinderella Gray all showed me that this isn't just a cash grab, it's a passion project that actually works. For a genre that's usually built on draining your wallet, Uma Musume proved me wrong. It reminded me that gacha games can be fun, heartfelt, and even inspiring when they're done right. And honestly, if you've ever been curious about it, give it a shot. You might end up just as hooked as I am. And that is all. I'll see ya.